You try to set up a positive, virtuous dynamic around leads getting pushed through the funnel, properly qualified, and then handed off to sales in a way that they're juicy and ready to go. Hello, and welcome to the Misadventures in Marketing podcast, presented by the American Marketing Association, San Francisco chapter. I'm Steve Haney, a fractional go-to-market executive in Silicon Valley.
And I'm Peter Farago, a high-tech marketing leader in the Bay Area. Each week, Steve and I come together to talk about all things in high-tech marketing.
We share our own experiences running marketing teams with a special focus on technology startups. We talk about our successes and our failures, what worked and what didn't. We'll also be inviting our CMO friends and other marketing colleagues onto the show every once in a while, and hopefully impart some wisdom along the way. Peter, how are you?
Thank you. I'm well. Can't complain. In a regular routine, kids back to school, work, dropping cars off for various repairs, just all the domestic goodness. How's life with you?
Yeah. Been geeking out a little bit over all the new Apple OS updates. I'm a former Apple guy from back in the ancient times, and I've just been enjoying all the 26 releases. I think that's been an interesting branding decision on the part of Apple to start grouping together all their annual OS releases under a yearly moniker. So all the OSs, it's iOS 26, Mac OS 26, Vision OS 26, iPad OS 26. And I think it works. Work is buzzing right along. So yeah, things are good. Hey, listen, I think we've got a really good topic today that I'm excited about chatting about. And you can't talk about marketing and B2B and SaaS and high tech without talking about lead gen and working things through the funnel and then through the sales pipeline. And what we're particularly focused on today is that critical juncture between a marketing qualified lead and a sales qualified lead, and ensuring that leads that come in to the company, no matter how they come in, whether it's spear fishing or casting a net, that they get properly nurtured, properly taken care of, and pushed through. Our crack research team dug up an amazing stat, which I had no idea, that 79% of all marketing-generated leads never convert to sales, so they never make the handoff due to poor nurturing and follow-up. 79%. That's pretty crazy to me. Anyway, I think this is going to be a good discussion. What do you think?
I think so. It is a perennial challenge to have marketing and sales partner well around defining a lead and figuring out when the right handoff is, and sales trusting those leads, and marketing knowing how to go get more of the right kind. I mean, it's just like this also leads sometimes to some CROs I know, especially in B2B, will want to run marketing, and the argument is that, I just need to control all the variables. And it's like, I think you lose a lot when that happens, but I can see why they want to, at least for control.
Well, yeah, what they want to control is lead gen. Because they don't understand what marketing means with a big M, that it's more than just lead gen, right? We've had this discussion before about this obsession with quarterly focus and everything, and just marketing's responsibility is 6, 9, 12, 24 months down the road, as well as the immediate needs of lead gen. And unfortunately, there's a conception, a lot in an early stage startup, you have to be much more focused on the short term. But over time, even as you get mid-sized, if you aren't thinking down the line, and doing your job as a great marketer, thinking down, okay, sales guys, I'm getting you your leads this quarter. A year from now, you've got to have the leads. And that doesn't happen in a month or 2 months just by juicing up the channels. We have to start laying that foundation now. And that's what's often lost.
Everything you're saying, I'm just nodding along. And I'm trying to think about the simplest way, especially for folks maybe who don't live and breathe B2B. When you're in it, it is very intense because
Hmm.
revenue demands are real and everybody feels it in the company. So I'd say the biggest difference with maybe how marketing thinks about marketing and a lot of your organization and the pressure they'll put on you will think about it is kind of this rough divide between brand and demand. It's the ability to think longer term, to think more about the right content creation and marketing research and
Yep.
campaigns that solve customer problems versus this aggressive direct outreach, feature focused pitches, short term wins, quarterly quotas, right? Like, and so when I think about it, I've always naturally gotten the strategic brand stuff easily. What I've probably matured at over my career is making sure I'm satisfying the demand piece well. Because what I find is if you don't do it and focus just on the brand stuff, you'll get pulled into the demand stuff. By doing this counterintuitive to some extent, by focusing on the demand pieces at the right time, we're going to talk about what that means today. You keep capacity free to still be able to focus somewhat on the long term.
Here's another possible analogy that will work, and you can tell me if I'm off here. Compounding interest and saving for retirement. You can't just hit 65 and say, or 60 and say, oh, I've got 5 years to save for my retirement. No, in your
Yeah.
20s, you need to start socking stuff away, and we all hopefully learn this: the miracle of compounding interest. You hear this
Yes.
term all the time. That's
Yep.
the early investment you make, so that when you get to the long term goal, you've got a few million to live out your life on, right? The SEO, all the content being out there, building that
Yes.
over time so that 12 months from now, the leads are going to be there when you've got those higher revenue goals, when you've got that greater momentum. And if and that's marketing shop. Marketing is like your financial planner for your retirement, so to speak, right? And they've got to be saying, okay, we got to make these investments here now so that when we got to hit that number 18 months from now, we're going to have the momentum or the resources or whatever you want to call to do it.
My guess is that other B2B marketers who've really had to have their feet held to the fire on the job will totally relate to what you're saying because it made instant sense to me.
So, when we're looking at this problem, right? You mentioned this already. How do you get sales to come together with you and do what we call an SLA, a service level agreement between marketing and sales, on what makes a good lead and how to get everybody to agree on that? Meaning, when a marketing qualified lead hits certain criteria and sales
Yes.
says yes, that's you can now hand that over to me, and then I will decide whether to bin it or nurture it or turn it into a sales qualified lead. I don't know. I've actually not had a lot of problem with this process in my career. I mean, I found the sales guys pretty open and willing to help define that criteria and be good with it. But I don't know. Have you ever run into any trouble?
Most sales leaders get it and they can switch between short term and long term planning, especially if they're more an exec because that's part of their job in general. So they
Mm-hmm.
appreciate the difference between in the quarter and beyond the quarter. I have had the terrible experience I had with a company that was a startup that was really trying to gear up and scale fast and had a relatively large team for its scale and revenue. The reason it didn't work out is because I think that we had a sales leader who presented as kind of a hot shot, but was really, frankly, kind of inexperienced as a leader and was making all the it was compounded actually with the CEO's inexperience, I should say. This
Mm-hmm.
person was geared toward all the short term gimmicks and not at all thinking about long term anything. And the CEO, I think at the time, was a little desperate, definitely immature and inexperienced. And I think that combination resulted in us not really being able to have the conversation well of making all of this work, finding the right types of companies or leads to talk to and seeing where they are and their interest level and connecting sales with them at the right time and hoping some of them turn to customers. That whole process. It starts, especially in the beginning, like in the work I do at smaller companies, often I'm setting it up. I've definitely been on the big side. The big side is usually pretty well orchestrated, and you have sales ops and rev ops even lately.
Right.
Marketing might even have their own marketing ops people. So there are people working on the data and tracking things across the life cycle. And you're at that level of maturity and understanding things at a pretty interesting level. In the beginning, a lot of it, I think, starts with marketing having to think more long term, and marketing have to initiate and lead the conversation because the salespeople will just be in the. This is not a characterization of them good or bad. It's just my experience is that they are hunting. They're at that stage. They're daily grind. They're trying to get stuff done. They've got conversations happening. They're talking to these customers. They're trying to scare up more conversations, and they're just in it. My whole point is the first stage is around alignment. I think marketing needs to lead that, or it may not happen.
Right.
And alignment isn't a kickoff, it's a habit, right? It's a habit that you have to start as the marketing leader. And if you don't get alignment, bad things will happen. And I'll also say it's not like from a document, it's from having shared goals, shared data, shared accountability. So the best teams, I think, will align at the edge where the handoff happens.
Yeah. So where does lead scoring fit into all that?
That's in a sense the metric or the quantification of is a I'll not call them leads and stuff, but is a potential customer that we're engaged with in some way ready for a salesperson to reach out and set up a meeting with, right? And typically you don't want your salespeople focused on having conversations that are dead ends. So, but I think a lot of work needs to go into defining quote unquote qualification. And the way it's been done to date is like with a quote unquote score, the lead scoring. And we can talk about what that means, but lead scoring is everything. It's kind of the handoff moment. And it's not just a one-time thing. It's an ongoing iterative process. It's constantly like, I'm giving you things and you're deciding whether it was ready and complete enough for you to receive, or do you need to kick them back to me? That's the whole thing, because salespeople can only have so many meetings a week. And if we're pushing them bad leads, the other thing that happens, sales will ignore if they don't trust the leads getting past them. They'll just start to ignore them, and you get a totally different problem. You're wasting their time.
Yeah. This episode of Misadventures in Marketing is brought to you by Section, the leading online business school for the age of AI. Every ambitious person deserves a great strategic education. People who want to be great at their jobs now, not on someone else's schedule. That's where Section comes in. Section gives you the tools, frameworks, and strategies to get to work right away with no gatekeeping involved. Section knows from experience that AI has massive implications for marketers. Not only do they upskill 15,000 students a month, their own marketing team scored an expert-level AI proficiency when tested. They're excited to bring even more marketers into the AI era, so they're offering an exclusive 20% discount to AMA SF members for their AI for Marketers workshop and the AI crash course. Just go to sectionschool.com and sign up using the code AMASF20. That's AMASF20 to receive a 20% discount on the AI for Marketers workshop and the AI crash course. Section, the leading online business school for real people. Education isn't just about what you learn, it's about what you do with it. Well, and, I remember, again, a little bit of ancient history here. I think this was like 15 years ago. There was a very famous insider industry book. I should know the name of it. It was almost a case study from one of the sales leaders at Salesforce in the early days. And it was basically the whole premise at the beginning of the book is, oh, those marketing guys over there, they aren't doing anything for us. We're not getting leads that we like from them. we're just going to set up our own prospecting model and we're going to do our own outreach. And it was a very successful model. And a lot of companies in Silicon Valley copied it, right? Where basically the sales guys just said, marketing guys aren't giving us good leads. They're giving us a little bit of something, but we got a number to hit. This whole prospecting model and set of practices that they put together there was incredibly successful for them. So, and these are the kinds of things that happen. I think you are right that marketing is in kind of a show me state much of the time in terms of quality of leads, and marketing has to have some kind of come to Jesus in terms of the lead scoring and make sure they're producing a product that their customer wants, so to speak.
Yeah. I think the book you're talking about is called Predictable Revenue. I looked it up, so I don't know this off the top of my head on the fly research. But it's often considered the sales Bible of Silicon Valley, and it outlines what is now considered this sort of outbound sales process.
Right.
And it's really prospecting.
Which should be a part of every sales team's, discipline anyhow.
Yes. And it's funny you mentioned that. That was the same company where I really had a challenge. It was in that era. It was like late, mid to late teens and, 2016, 17. And I think what happened was there was a pendulum swing, if you will, toward kind of sales led lead generation, this SDR, BDR function. There's now software outreach. And again, I think it all goes back to, in my head, to one bucket is demand. Generally in the B2B world, you worry about demand, helping bring in the quarter, lead gen, demand gen, and you worry about brand, like you said, the financial planner thing, the compound interest, the looking ahead. And I think basically that trend caught on and pushed people toward overemphasis on demand, which is not long-term and sustainable. It's transactional. It doesn't build relationship and trust. And what your brand stands for, and having a relationship beyond the customer more than just, oh, my product delivers or doesn't deliver, and I got in front of you and sold it to you or not, right?
Certainly with SaaS, this is critical because, again, we've had this discussion before. The old world would sell a license and you'd get the money whether the seat was ever used within the enterprise or not, to the model now where if you don't keep that SaaS customer around for 2 years, you never make back your initial investment in sales and marketing, which is where we now have the customer success groups of keeping those people happy and keeping them on the platform. And this speaks directly to what you're saying about relationship building and everything. I have an analogy for this. Another one of my metaphors here. It's a one night stand versus a marriage, right?
Now, the dating analogy is totally appropriate. Everybody gets it, and we can think about it in an inbounds kind of way. But yeah, that is a different way of.
You can't do a more sales oriented one night stand thing. I got what I wanted, and the relationship doesn't exist. Versus a marriage where you're building the relationship over time, and the benefits to you or the company are much greater if you create that dynamic.
It's a transaction versus the relationship. And I don't think that it's going to hold up today. I think the buyer has evolved. They self-educate a lot more through content, communities, and peers.
Yes.
So I think that makes it less
movement that's unappreciated. Yeah.
And I think cold outbound without any warm context. I mentioned the diminishing returns. I think that anybody who's on LinkedIn today, who's been saturated with a bunch of outbound, like everybody's numb to it now and they're ignoring it. And so the other thing that I think is a problem is it overemphasizes volume. It's very spray and pray. The SDRs are compensated on the numbers they bring, the volume.
I just want to make a couple of comments on what you're saying. One of the things I've always said is that marketing scales, sales doesn't. To your point, like at a certain point, there are only 24 hours in the day. And when you got people dialing for dollars, there's only so much they can do. A marketing campaign can hit thousands, tens of thousands of people for a fraction of the cost, right? So that's just part of the dynamic that goes unappreciated because, again, if you see the immediate thing of an SDR calling somebody and say, hey, I got this person to respond, versus a bunch of data coming back off a AdWords campaign or a marketing campaign, it doesn't have the same dynamic or appeal. But the reality is marketing scales way less, and it's just that the returns aren't understood or seen until over a period of time, versus 10 sales reps who may be knocking on doors, but they've only got 24 hours in a day. This is what you were saying about eventually this kind of thing just hits a wall.
Right. Yeah. It's so fascinating. The other thing I'll say that is deeply concerning about that type of movement getting traction, this idea that sales can be self-contained and do it all themselves.
That whole thing. I mean, that first page, that's you just captured it. It's just like you. And this is
why I
think it's important to understand, though, that Benioff was a sales guy. The founder of that company was a star sales guy, an Ellison protege at Oracle. And, companies are their founders. So you could see why this found traction and success within Salesforce, because Benioff did not come from product. He did not come from marketing. He was a highly successful B2B, knocking on doors, dialing for dollars sales guy.
I agree with you. Benioff is a sales guy, and they made a sales product that they were selling to salespeople. So they were their target customer. And the pattern that I was, to finish it off, come back around to the pattern I see is, like when I was in electronic arts, a lot of our marketing folks were gamers. It's like it's an enthusiast industry. I'm assuming if you work at Harley Davidson or you're in the motorcycle industry, you ride a motorcycle. Like you get it. Like you get what it means, whether that means freedom to you or anti-establishment or whatever that means to you. So you get that innately. It's much easier to understand your target market and talk to them correctly. It's such early days, but if you can unify the brand, and this is going to sound very squishy, but the brand story, the brand promise, like an example would be if we have a technology product that's kind of monitoring that we think the big promise is it gives you peace of mind, you can sleep at night, then we should always be, in all our messaging in a unified way, we should be talking about that. And I think that will get frayed if you don't have marketing involved early on to figure out. We talked about this in the messaging house, where you developed the value proposition and you developed the 3 core, pillars of value that you would have always repeated as the 3 main benefits that would be communicated in every, in the same way, in the similar tone across all touch points when you're trying to establish positive associations and go beyond the core.
Well, and the thing is, this is already happening around us, but I do believe AI can solve a lot of this problem. We're talking about the fact that 90% of these leads don't get nurtured, don't get followed up on. And I actually think AI would be good enough to solve a lot of this problem. Sense is doing this. Addio is doing this. I guess Clay, to a certain extent, is one of these AI enabled platforms that enriches data and allows you to, export what you're doing into HubSpot or whatever to more effectively ensure that, these leads don't get lost somewhere and never make it to the CRM. I think there's just huge opportunity here. I cannot say I've had deep experience at all using these tools to do this. It's just a lot of research and industry articles that I've read. So I need to give that caveat. I have not had hands-on experience doing this, and I certainly can't bring up anything from one of my clients or a project that I've worked on where I've been able to track this. But I think it's pretty obvious that you could solve at least 50% of these issues with these AI tools. It's just a problem made for them to solve.
This episode of Misadventures in Marketing is brought to you by Peakbound Studio, the Bay Area video production house for high-impact marketing videos. Online video is quickly becoming the universal language of business and the primary medium through which marketers speak to their prospects. According to Forbes and market research firm Statista, 90% of all businesses are currently using online video in their marketing. And in 2025, 85% of those businesses will increase their spending in online video over last year. Enter Peakbound Studio. Peakbound Studio is not just another video production team. They are storytellers, visual artists, and high-tech experts rolled into one. They manage everything from the initial concept to the final edit. Your online video presence has to be responsive, vibrant, and constant to get the attention of prospects and spread your message into every corner of the marketplace. Peakbound makes sure your messages are unique, compelling, and pop in today's attention-scarce world. So whether you need brand storytelling, customer testimonials, corporate videos, or short-form social media content, Peakbound delivers videos that don't just look good, they work. Learn more at www.peakbound.studio. That's www.peakbound.studio. Peakbound Studio, the video production house that puts your online video to work.
I mean, there's a couple core principles, but this goes back to your point about sales being unable to scale without adding more people. It's a very human intensive process. And so much of the thinking, and I'm in it now, so much of the thinking is around automation and scaling with a small team. And thinking about, via AI. In my company, I've been thinking about the tech stack, the go-to-market tech stack quite a bit and all the automation capabilities. And I can guarantee that that's going to be the case. Yeah, it's an interesting time. But I still think that marketing, if we talk about the alignment has to be initiated by marketing, I think, or it may not happen. It just will get ignored or it's not as important. And this is what happened to me before. And I think marketing will balance short-term and long-term growth and can scale. And I think all of those point at like this efficiency that's afforded to you by AI, because the LLMs can see nuanced relationships now in language and tone and stuff. It's sort of suited to brand. It's sort of suited to brand and the softer things, right?
And then I think at the end of the day, and you just alluded to this, you have to have this relationship between sales and marketing be organic and active. And I think probably the best way to solve this problem is to have shared metrics. And maybe those are, you have joint OKRs, right? That puts both parties' skin in the game. And if sales isn't helping you with your metrics and you're not helping them with their metrics, then you try to set up a positive, virtuous dynamic around leads getting pushed through the funnel, properly qualified, and then handed off to sales in a way that they're juicy and ready to go. Because these, these leads, getting back to one of our stats that our crack research team put together, leads are 9 times more likely to convert if they're immediately contacted. I mean, this is an insane stat. So, if they're sitting in there somewhere in the funnel and they're not getting qualified, pushed down, etc., they basically rot. They're like fruit. They're not shelf stable. And you got to get them out there. So sales has an incentive to make sure you're successful in terms of the marketing automation system and the CRM and the whole stack, getting those things through. I think it goes beyond the classic, service level agreement between sales and marketing. I mean, I think it has to be a more, dynamic process that you set up, shared conversion rates, right? Team velocity, right? The speed reflects the alignment, right? The faster things move through, that means the more aligned the entire go-to-market team is. We used to do this in the past. It's like won versus sales lost, and it would always do the opportunities lost analysis. Probably that needs a new interpretation and a new set of criteria and a fresh approach in the world we're living in now, where this whole thing is more organic. And you do, by necessity, again, to our earlier points, it's also connected now, certainly with product-led growth companies, right? Way, way, way more connected in terms of that first touch and then moving folks through the funnel and into the opportunity pipeline. It's all got to work together in one organic whole. All the stuff we've been talking about work for the further greater good and the growth of the entity overall. The marriage, not the transactional relationship.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It does start with some kind of collaboration and alignment. We should have one funnel with shared definitions. What is our ICP? What is an MQL, an SAL, an SQL, and so forth?
Mm-hmm.
Try to keep very brief descriptions of each of those. That alone could be a long process to figure out, especially if you're selling a new product in a new market. I think you score, generically for most companies, you're going to score on two axes, fit and intent. So the fit is like the company and the title of the role you're talking to, the persona, and so on. The intent, of course, are the high signal behaviors. They're ready to buy now. They're visiting you a lot. So like these are the two things you're trying to talk to the right people who are the most ready. And if you have a sales and a marketing leader, they should be really good partners. Because speaking about transactions versus relationships, that's going to set the tone. It just occurs to me, I don't sit in the sales pipeline meeting. It's very early at my company, but I don't sit in them, and I need to.
That's super healthy, I think, for that kind of thing to work.
Because it shouldn't be a black box. Everybody is working toward finding the right potentially interested customers and then potential buyers and turning them into buyers and all the steps in there. Like a lot of marketing is relied upon for quote unquote sales collateral and objection handling sometimes, right? Or validating things. I need a case study. Like I will just say lead scoring is there are some AI powered tools that promise to do that like more automatically, but it's usually like they downloaded something and it's worth you're assigning points like a video game. It's a scoring game.
Right.
They looked at us more recently. They went to a pricing page. You usually set them up as a rules-based process. And it's not about you sitting down and being smart one weekend and designing the perfect scoring system. It's about the real work is the collaboration, the back and forth, trying to create that environment.
No, I think it's something that you're highly attuned to. You talk about this often. You want the prospect, you want to know where they sit and where are they ready to buy yet. And again, I know this may sound naive, but I think AI is just going to solve that. I think it's going to look at the 2 trillion little micro moves that a prospect makes online. And it's going to be able to pop up and you say, Peter, I think Mary Jane at Acme Corp, she's ready. Because I just saw her post something on her Facebook page, and then she was at a conference, and here's her speech. You need to get this off to the SDR right now and ping her, say, it's been great. We've met 2 or 3 times. Where do you say? I really do think that AI is going for, if you're focused on intent and like, when do we reach out? What actions do we take? I think these LLMs are going to be a big solution there. Anyhow, just another thought.
I think when I hear about applying AI today, and as I'm thinking about our tech stack or go-to-market tech stack, the conversation is usually around like signals. And the signals can lead to scoring, and they maybe were a little more hand-generated rules prior to this, and hopefully AI is going to see lots of little signals and movements you're talking about. And yeah, and it's going to all flow back to this idea of like, is it the right type of company you think you want to talk to and the right person in that company and what, and their intent, their readiness. So it's a combination of like, relevance and importance, or relevance and urgency are the two vectors. In my world, it's like mean time to resolution or mean time to recovery of a system. It's things like that, engineering hours saved. And you have to be able to quantify that in a way that is so credible that that person who works at that company is willing to tell their boss, I will save this much money. I will save this much time. I will make us this much better. They have to believe it. So I love going through that process because that gets me back. This is what I love about marketing, I think, in general, is just, this is where I've said many times, I think a requirement for marketers is to have good empathy. And it doesn't mean like you're a feeling, sensing person. It's that you can imagine their world, their reality, their pressure, their incentives. What's keeping them up
at night. Yeah,
exactly. And I love that. That's a psychology part of it to some extent. That's a one of the facets I really love about marketing is thinking about, okay, am I helping them and making them and their company better? Like that feels good to figure that out, So the joint storytelling, we were talking about brand versus demand and trying to make sure that, it's putting all the wood behind one arrow in terms of messaging. But if you do think about that intentionally and the brand, the beliefs we're trying to build up and the positioning and the differentiation we're trying to build up, which all sound very vague, I realize, that has to be part of this. And it does affect the lead generation. It affects what you're telling and promising the customer, what you're trying to prove at each stage. It actually matters to conversion steps to like start to have this unified, differentiated story. And I think little companies need that especially. Or you're going to tilt toward predictable revenue and a big SDR team and forget marketing. That's going to be bad in the long run.
Peter, can I read us out?
Read us out, Steve.
We want to thank you, our audience, for listening. Our editors, Lorenzo Fernandez-Kopek at Peakbound Studio and Brian Douglas at the Creative Commonwealth for making Peter and I sound and look fantastic. Our marketing maven, Ian Robinson Lambert, for getting the word out on all the socials. I want to thank Julianne Bernalis, who's going to be editing out 30% of this so that we look and sound even smarter than we are. She's our consulting producer. I want to thank the amazing Renita Dada for driving all of our market research and our content calendar and giving us all the great data we call upon when we're talking about these topics. And of course, Thomas Moyer, president of AMA San Francisco, for letting us do this every week and using them as a platform for promotion. And would also like to thank our sponsor, Workbox, for helping to present Misadventures in Marketing.